What's going on, everyone? Today is Tuesday the 4th. Again, no trades for me today. I know I made a rule where I had to take a one trade minimum per day. However, I think that's pretty stupid. Why would I trade if it's obviously not worth putting some money on the table? Now, here we are. Here's the trading window. And obviously, there was one opportunity, possibly two, that I missed to go towards this 4-hour gap right here. Let's just immediately jump into this. I don't want this video to be super long. I just want this to be very quick, recap, and go over my journal and what I noted, what I wrote down for today. So let's go back to 9:30. Obviously, ES is drawing towards all-time highs, and it is by far the leading asset. By far. All right. There's no question about it. Obviously, ES is drawing towards its all-time highs, and we have somewhat equal highs up there. No, I think they are equal highs. Yeah, they are. All right, that's obvious. How can we capitalize on that though? Well, firstly, we go to like the hourly, for example. We have this 1 hour gap right here that I would really like to see New York open, trade into, and then possibly a continuation. We are already respecting this 30-minute though, which that's kind of the main point of today, is respecting lower time frame gaps. Market open, we don't get that nice tag into that, fair value gap. We just kind of start ripping higher, and so I begin to look for draws higher. Obviously, there's this first draw right here that catches my attention. And when you scale up to the higher time frame, there is a 4-hour gap that starts right here. So those are my two draws for today. I want to see how we, react. Immediately, we don't get we don't get an entry towards this first draw. However, it is not the end of the world. ES has still yet to tag its all-time highs. I'm still eyeing this, and I believe we start to reject from here. We obviously have this 5-minute opening up, which is amazing. That's what I wanted to see happen, was this 5-minute to be tagged, right? I wanted to see this 5-minute get tagged. However, this never happens. We don't ever get this 5-minute tag, and we just start to rip up higher. Moving on later into the day, we end up getting close to 10 a.m. And here I want to see this 10 a.m. It's setting up really nice for this 15-minute right here. I really wanted to see this 15-minute get tagged. The 15-minute candle has basically no bottom wick. I wanted to see 10 a.m. open, manipulate, and then move higher. That's really what I wanted. But what do we end up getting? Not that, and we start to rip up higher. Now, why did these two trades play out the way they did? My consensus is that instead of manipulating into the 5-minute, price manipulates into this 3-minute right here. Once NQ manipulates into that 3-minute, we end up getting a nice unicorn on the 30-second, where we have this 30-second fair value gap, and we also have this 30-second change in the state of delivery after we sweep out this minor sell side. We also have an SMT at this very tiny swing low. However, I wouldn't really consider this valuable info. I'd really look at these two things right here. We also have a mini breaker, right? We have this low, high, lower low, higher high, meaning we do have this breaker formation right here. So honestly, if you set a limit on the change in state of delivery, you set a limit on the CE of this bullish gap, you set a limit on the breaker, whatever you want. Let's just say you entered here, you could TP at the 4-hour very comfortably, very nice, almost 6R, which I completely missed because I really wanted to see this 5-minute get tagged, but we just didn't. And my whole, consensus again is that the 3-minute gets respected, so now there is no longer a reason for price to rebalance or retrace lower. We have already rebalanced. We've rebalanced to the 2-minute, so there's no, we've rebalanced to the 3-minute. There's no reason to rebalance to the 4-minute, right? The discounted opportunity has already presented itself, in which we are manipulating into the 3-minute. That is the discounted opportunity for buyers to step in. There's no longer a need to tap into this 5-minute. And the same can be said about this 15-minute right here, the 15-minute setup that I wanted to, wait for. We have this really tiny 5-minute gap it is still a 5-minute gap regardless. If I can drag it out. And on top of that, we have a 3-minute gap. Now, the reason I think this trade wasn't as smooth as this one is we inverse the 3-minute gap and we start to reject out of the 5-minute. However, the inversion takes way too long and we are kind of just moving sideways. We're not getting that nice V-shaped displacement on either time frame. Now, the upsides to this trade were obviously this SMT at this low and this low. When you look at ES, we did not sweep that low. Here is this low right here, and it's this low right here. We did not sweep on ES. So you could place a trade on something like this. Your stop would go at this low, and your TP would be 4-hour gap for a nice 2 risk to reward. Now, the reason I think this was a lower quality setup was obviously, again, we have 10 a.m. opening. We have a little bit of news, and I wanted to see this move lower before moving higher. I really wanted to see this 15-minute get manipulated into, but we didn't get that. And I also really wanted to see a quicker close on the inversion, a better V-shaped recovery. This is pretty bad. We just kind of chopped sideways. So those are the two trades that I technically didn't really miss. They just didn't align with my current knowledge and thought process. You know, I really wanted to see these higher time frame gaps get hit. Didn't realize the strength that the lower time frame ones held. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Moving forward, I'll take into account these 3-minute taps and these 5-minute taps that get respected before making a higher time frame gap. Now with this knowledge, had I had this in mind before, I would have taken this 3-minute and I wouldn't have been worried about the 5-minute being tapped. I would have taken this one. I probably wouldn't have taken this one still, just because of the lack of cleanliness. But also, a major thing to consider is ES is so bullish. It's so extremely bullish towards its all-time highs. So in a way, this chop isn't really a big deal, right? Because we're super bullish. We are super bullish towards this draw. You shouldn't really be super nitpicky on the lower time frames when everything is bullish. Like, what I'm basically saying is you could have clicked buy pretty much anywhere and you would have been fine. So moving forward, I really want to take into account when we respect a 3-minute or 5-minute before something of a higher time frame opens up. Even if my stop loss is at the beginning of that higher time frame gap, it shouldn't matter because we did respect the lower one already. But yeah, it does kind of suck. That's the second day. We have gotten nothing for August. I'm really, really, really optimistic about tomorrow. I really think tomorrow I'll bank some crazy win simply because of all this data I've been collecting about the first hour of the market, right? The first hour is super, super clean. We get a nice pullback into this 3-minute, 30-second inversion, 30-second unicorn setup, bang, to this 4-hour, you get a nice 5.5 R. Right here, same thing. We get a nice manipulation into a 5-minute, and we respect that 5-minute. We get an SMT at the low, we get a 30-second inversion, bang, straight to the 4-hour. So these are good trades. It's just lack of knowledge, I guess, on why I didn't take these. But that's pretty much it. A little bummed, but it is what it is. I'll see you guys tomorrow.